Welcome back to Buying Sandlot. Today, we have Perfect Game CEO Rob Ponger on to talk about building one of the biggest media and consumer brands in youth sports. We get into PG's recent media partnerships and how they help innovate broadcast, why he believes youth sports remains one of the most overlooked marketing opportunities, a defensive state of play, and updates on international expansion. But before we get into that, we want to thank Event Connect for sponsoring the show. If you're an operator or tournament director like Perfect Game, you know tournament weekends have become mini supply chains. Teams register, rosters change, schedules shift, hotels fill, and parents scramble. Too many events still run things on spreadsheets, portals, and last-minute calls. That's where Event Connect comes in. They centralize the weekend workflow and handle things like registration, rostering, payments, lodging, and real-time reporting. 20 organizers can run end-to-end on Event Connect or integrate the systems they already use with no rip and replace required. Whatever you prefer, the data lands in one place so operators aren't stitching together reports from multiple tools. But that's not all. Their House and Connect feature embeds hotel bookings directly into checkout, capturing rooms at peak intent instead of sending families to a separate portal later, and results can be up to 30% more room night reservations and 24% savings on team hotel costs. Need more proof? Event Connect powers 5,000 events and connects 30,000 hotels across 800 destinations annually. Learn more about how Event Connect can help power your tournament at eventconnectsports.com. And now, let's get into the interview with Rob. Rob Ponger, CEO of Perfect Game, thank you for joining Buying Sandlot. We know the All-American Classic is right around the corner. It'll be August 16th at Citizens Bank Park. What can we expect from that?
Well, listen, first off, thanks for having me back on. It's great to be here.
Two-time guest. You joined two-time guest.
Two-time guest, and love what you guys did in April again at the Buying Sandlot convention.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's an annual thing for you guys, but glad I could participate that in one of the better events I've ever been a part of, to be perfectly honest with you guys.
That's awesome. Yeah, we are running back, and we would love to have you back, obviously.
That's great. So the Dick's Perfect Game All-American Classic that's coming up on August 16th actually starts on August 14th. We bring the kids in probably on the 13th. There's an all-star game for the younger kids, the freshman class coming in, which will be great. On Saturday, there's the Home Run Derby. And, of course, on Sunday, we kick off the Perfect Game All-American, which, we're going to live stream, obviously, as well on perfectgame.tv and all our social media channels. And, for us, coming off of the draft, the MLB draft, which was just, last week, a little bit more than a week ago, 16 kids drafted in that draft in the first round were Perfect Game All-Americans. 584 kids out of 613 in the draft were Perfect Game alumni. But those 16 kids were at our All-American game last year. So you can expect to see the same. You're going to see the stars of tomorrow playing. And what's great about this is the future of baseball comes to the birthplace of America, right? 250th anniversary of America. Where better to be than Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philly, where basically America was created. So we're celebrating the next generation of stars on one of the biggest stages. I'm an East Coast guy myself, so I have to say it's a much shorter trip for me coming out here. But this is where Bryce Harper, this is where Bobby Witt Jr., this is where Gunnar Henderson, Riley Green, Paul Skeens. I mean, they all played in this game. So there's a legacy, a history. For us, the Perfect Game All-American is like hallowed ground. So this is the first stage for these kids to truly show off they're great players, and hopefully, the first 30 picks next year will be All-Americans. So the baseball's future will be on Showcase, and this is the premier amateur event in America. Is this Perfect Game All-American game?
What was the number you gave for the total number of players drafted that had played in a PG event?
So last year, in the draft this 10 days ago, 613 kids were drafted. 584 of them were Perfect Game alumni. So about 95% of the kids, with 16 of the first round draft picks, were just Perfect Game All-Americans last year.
We're in the game. So this is the true futures game. You guys have done it. So where have you done it before? I think San Diego, out west, right?
Yeah, last year we were in San Diego and we had, Trevor Hoffman, kind of our master of ceremonies, with Darren Sutton, our host. This year, I don't want to announce everything because I think we have a release next week, but certainly Charlie Manuel will be at the game. Fantastic gentleman, former Phillies manager, which you guys probably all love. We're glad to have him there. There'll be other announcements about ex-Philly players managing the team, potentially ex-Philly managers managing the team, and obviously the classics that we always, Trevor Hoffman, Mo Vaughn, the Ryan Kleskos, the Flash Gordons, Alfonso Sorianos, Francisco Cervellis. We'll have a huge array of talent at that game. And, it's very hands-on with the former players. And we're looking to have a great event. And just love that we're in Philly and, really push for it. We might go back to San Diego another time, but listen, who knows, maybe this becomes an annual thing if we can make it happen.
I know you think last time you were on, you talked a lot about building brand. I know you care deeply about media, right? You view this more as just a tournament business. Talk about maybe the audience demand for that event and how it's grown over the years. I think you guys have layered on. Is this the first year you're doing like the All-Star game for the younger guys on the Thursday?
We do it on Friday. Sorry, but we've done it we've done it for a long time right now.
Okay.
So we did it last year as well. We'll have special team uniforms for all the kids made up. We'll release them and it'll be really cool. And, all the kids get their swag bags and everything else. So it's exciting. And who knows how big these numbers can be when we live stream it. And we did our national in where the Marlins play a few weeks ago. And we were up to 362,000 live stream views while that was taking place, which is better than some networks get on the afternoon. So yeah, it's amazing. And again, we hope everybody tunes in on Sunday, August 16th. This is going to be a great event.
Expand on the media side of that. You guys, I feel like of everyone in the space, we get almost a press release from you guys like every week or every other week. You guys always have a partnership, always have an announcement. One that really jumped out to us is with the creators. Is it Doubted? I had it right in front of me. Doubted Athletes guys. Yeah. So that one's got a unique story because I think you guys think differently about like how to reach the young baseball fan, the young consumer. Those guys were actually outside your fence, like filming events, creating content. Then you guys saw it and thought, hey, this would be a great partnership for us to have. We're able to bring them in, give them some access, control some of that access. So maybe talk about that partnership in particular, and then just in general about how you guys think a little bit differently about content beyond just the live stream. That's almost table stakes these days, and you guys have meaningful numbers there, but you think much more deeply about integrating with existing creators with audience, I believe.
No, absolutely. And I love the way you kind of said that they were filming outside the fence or outside the gate. So, our role is to really open up the fence. Hey, come inside the ropes, right? Come inside the fence and help us film. And, the way we think about it realistically is we look at it, it's like, listen, I grew up in media. I think if I've told you this before at IMG, I was a CFO of the media group. We did everything from Indian cricket in India, America's Cup in New Zealand, you name it. But the world's changed right now. Putting something on network at, 2:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday and Sunday. I have 9 and 12-year-old boys. I don't think they know what ABC, NBC, and CBS are anymore. They know on demand, they know streaming, they know YouTube, they know perfectgame.tv, they know my channels because I make them know it. No, but they follow it, obviously. But we look at it as we're meeting our audience where they consume the content, right? And that's on YouTube, that's on Instagram, that's on these streaming channels, and that's what we're coming to. We want you on YouTube. We know you're on YouTube. You're on Instagram. You're on TikTok. We're coming to you. We know where the younger generation of people are watching, right? So for us, it's very big to keep doing these deals with Doubted Athletes. Really funny, last time I saw you guys in Philadelphia in April, I announced the Youth Prospects deal. So hopefully I see you guys in another month and we announce another thing a month from now. But we want to give unique access to the games, to the players, how we position the cameras. Listen, we're paying for the fields, we're paying for the TVs, we're paying for the umpires, we're paying for the scorers, the cameramen. This is our event, and realistically, we should be thinking of it as it's no different than an NCAA event. It's no different than a Major League Baseball event. We're the ones spending millions of dollars putting on these events on the fields. And what we really want to do is we want the viewers and the kids to have a fantastic experience. We want, again, we want to bring it to you where you're watching it. Listen, we're going to do all these different things, but these are also media rights. This is a media rights play right now, too. Now, with that said, mom and dad come to the game. We hope you have your phone out. We hope you have a camera. We hope you're filming it. We hope you put it on Facebook, YouTube. We hope you share it with grandma and grandpa. We love seeing that content all over the place on the parents' social media platform. But we're doing these deals with youth prospects. We're doing these deals with doubted athletes. We're doing 75 plus YouTube live events now with PG. We're live streaming these events because this is our content, PG content, right? And, unfortunately, there's also a lot of people taking our content and not having our permission and using it for commercial purposes, monetizing it on different platforms. And it's something that we're going to have to put a stop to because they don't have any right to it. Just like I can't go to a Philly game with 2 cameras, film the game and say, hey, you can watch it on robponger.tv and I don't need to pay Major League Baseball a fee or the Phillies a fee. Well, there's a lot of people doing that. And again, parents, moms, dads, kids, you want to film it, put it on your social channels, fantastic. We actually would love for you to send us your user-generated content, and we'll probably put it on a PG platform where we had 1.1 billion social media impressions last year, right? You want your kid to be seen? We'll have your kid seen. But, there's people that are outside the fence filming our stuff and monetizing it, which is an issue for us, and that's why we're doing these deals. And this is a media channel. This is media content that's owned by Perfect Game, and I'm the ones paying for the fields and the umps and the insurance and the cameramen. And again, always for personal purposes, film to your heart's desire, though.
You sound like Dana White a little bit. I feel like every time he talks about the same issues, a little bit about people just stealing content and everything. Going back to the youth prospects and doubted athletes deal, what's that open up for strategy? What's the strategy? What's that open up for sponsorship inventory? What's the strategy there?
Well, I think with anything, the more eyeballs that we get on our content and the more unique ways that it's filmed, right? The different angles, putting a camera maybe on the umpire, maybe there's something on the third base umpire, right? Just these different angles. We have a lot of flexibility. You've seen us at games. We take the cameraman and follow the pitching coach out to the mound and listen to the conversation. We're in the dugout talking. So for us, I think it's trying to be innovative in the way that we air and show the youth content. And for that, it's again, I don't want to push sponsors too much, but I do. This is an open book for the Chases or the Citibanks or the Geicos. You have 15, 16-year-old kids about to open up a bank account. You have kids about to drive. To me, I would be all over this if I was a bank. I'd be all over this if I was an insurance company. And the eyeballs that you have on us, we have a captive audience that you can talk to. And again, for us too, it also opens up even more NIL opportunities for the kids themselves, right? The kids can make money if they don't get drafted, they go to college, they're making money. And a lot of them are establishing themselves off of the PG content. We don't make money off of that. They want to go sell their own NIL rights to a shoe company, a bat company, a ball company. I mean, I think, in the first round, Drew Burris, who was the 8th pick in the draft by the A's, got a bat deal. I'm using Max Clark when he's on the Tigers in the minor league system. That kid is all over the place with different deals. But I think by the time he left high school, he had 100,000 followers on Instagram. And, for the kids and their advisors and their parents, Perfect Game is a great place for them to build their own personal brand as well by getting the exposure that we offer.
I want to double click on that for a second. Your events, obviously they're content factories, everything you just included there, they contribute to scouting, sponsorship exposure, all this stuff. how big can all this get, and what's maybe the next frontier in the media space or something else? And what I mean by that is there anything you're looking at down the line, and maybe like the tech or the infrastructure just isn't there yet, but in the future you maybe expect it to be in the media space?
Well, I think the way the media space is happening today, and we have deals with partners like SportFX or TrackMan, right? Where now you're capturing the body motion, the biomechanics of these kids, right? So, in my own dream scenario, I'm filming a game one day, there's body motion capture on it, and you're getting deeper into this analysis to where, hey, look, we're looking at exit velocities, but we're looking at the pitcher's motion and maybe his arm drop differently from the 50th pitch to the 70th pitch, right? So again, it leads to, as we film this and as the technology gets better, how does this help us with training the kids? How does it help us prevent injury on these kids, right? Like Perfect Game are the only group I think right now in youth ball that uses Pitch Smart, which the Major League Baseball, I believe, approves. You can't throw more than 85 pitches at our game at a 15-6. And I can't say that about other organizations, right? So we're looking after the kids, but I think with the technology getting better and better, and companies like SportFX that we're partnering with, which is a good partner announcement, the AI component of that, I think we're going to protect these kids. I think we're going to get injury prevention to become a big part of the game at an earlier age. And we didn't have this when I was a kid. I mean, the way you can see these kids now, the body motion, the biomechanics, that you can do it on the smartphone, what you can do with this video, the advent of AI and how it helps. I think this all leads to a more healthy and safe environment for the kids. And I think ultimately becomes how you can benchmark these kids, how you can train the kids better, where they're weak. I think you're going to see something over the next 3 years that is going to be amazing. And I think it's something that we can incorporate into the way we kind of televise these games and give feedback back to the parents and kids.
How much of that stuff can you see bubbling up to pro broadcast, whether it's Major League Baseball or other sports? I mean, you guys have free reign to experiment on microphones on the umpire, cameras going out to the mound, the biomechanics, and showing that in the broadcast. I almost liken it to, I think back to, and this isn't to compare you guys to the XFL, although Vince McMahon is probably a good business person to be in a circle with, but they pioneered like the steady cam, and I think the what's it called, the camera on a rope that goes behind the huddle, and then then the NFL picked up on that stuff. You guys are doing some cutting edge things around how you cut up and distribute content, the access you get. And it's my belief in this next, this MLB labor negotiation that's going to come up is like, some of these regional TV dollars are drying up. Players have big salaries. And it's like, how can we begin to think about a more modern broadcast and a way to monetize, get more eyeballs, more young fan eyeballs, and be able to monetize those eyeballs? And a lot of the ideas you just talked about to me seem like, wow, that would be awesome if you can convince the Players Association and Major League Baseball to agree to that. That doesn't exist for 15 and 16-year-olds, but at the pro level, like, that's a really compelling broadcast. Do you see some of this stuff making its way up?
I mean, I think everything one day will be part of the norm, right? As innovation, I think innovation, it's unstoppable at some point, right? Go back and watch a baseball game from 1980, and they're covering the game with the camera from center field or home plate, and it looked great when I was watching as a kid. Now, if you see that on you see a classic baseball game, and you're almost like, wow, how did I watch that? How did I watch this without the zone? We have 9 and 10-year-old kids right now who have a home plate umpire at a game, and they're going like this. I'm like, no, there's no video replay here, right? Like, when is it innovative? Listen, we're working on doing ABS at some of our games right now. We're working on doing smart parks. I mean, again, we can go crazy on this and keep thinking about it, but we all played video games. And, when is it going to happen one day? You're going to put on a football player or a baseball player or whoever, and there's going to be a heart monitor. There's going to be a pulse rate. There's going to be oxygen levels on the guy. Well, maybe I should take out that defensive lineman because his oxygen rate's at 90 right now and his heart rate's up to 110. Let me take him out and put in the fresh guy. I think it's a matter of time before we use all this type of technology to make it a better game to watch, but also a safer game for the athlete, right? Or, maybe that kid who's thrown his 80th pitch on a 90-degree day, heart rate's pumping, right? And I'm sure this happens in Major League Baseball in the dugouts now. They're tracking the velocity. I mean, listen, very simple. You see a guy starting out in the third inning throwing 98, and if he's throwing 95 in the sixth inning, you know the guy's running out of gas. You probably have the TrackMans or whatever there too, or Hawkeye, and the spin rate might be less, right? But, everybody knows when to take out these guys. It just, maybe that can be more visible for the fan. Maybe that's something that we could do at the youth level at some of our elite events and showcase that at some point. So it's all being discussed. So some of the innovation will be cool. Some of it might not be. 20 years ago, there was no radar gun on every pitch, right? There was no quadrant. I mean, things are changing very quickly. So we'd love to be innovators. Let's put it that way.
I've seen Whoop. Whoop did that with Rory McIlroy after the Masters, and they put out his data on what his sleep was like the 3 nights leading up to the Sunday final, and then Sunday night after all the partying. So it wasn't real time, but it was. They feel like a good candidate for something like that, or Aura Ring, something like that. Let me ask you about the sponsorship piece of that, right? What I said earlier, we get a lot of these announcements from you guys, and you're striking deals with partners that are, have activations left and right. What are you seeing on the demand side from companies to date? I think many of your partnerships have been, people in the baseball space. You got the headset, the Mookie Betts gloves, but you mentioned like Chase and Banks and like kind of these bigger Fortune 500 type brands. What are you seeing from the demand side from those larger corporations thinking about how they can reach the youth sports athlete and the parent?
Yeah, and listen, by the way, I love the Mookie Betts reference with the Legend glove. We're so proud of that. I have to certainly talk about that. We think, hey, what a fantastic athlete Mookie Betts is, right? He can win a Gold Glove in right field, a Gold Glove in shortstop, and he's played center and second base, and he is a legend, right? And he's having a legendary career, so we're very proud of that. But I think the sponsors, again, growing up in traditional TV, 15 years ago, people were looking for that 30-second spot. How do I put that 30-second spot out there, right? Who's watching a commercial today, right? Like even in football games, you see now they're bringing the commercial into the broadcast and they're not even cutting it, right? So to me, I've gone in this business 8 years ago when my partner Rick Thurman and I took it over. We had 100,000 participants in the business. We now have 1.9 million participants as of the end of 2025 in our business. And we had zero social, 1.1 billion impressions, right? So to me, all the sponsors, you name the category, banking, insurance, those conversations are starting to happen now because there's been so much spotlight on youth sports. And again, I don't think my 9 and 12-year-old have watched a commercial in their life unless it was the Super Bowl, right? And it just is. And to me, I just think that to get to these kids today, 9 to 18 years old, and their young parents, it has to be via social. It has to be on site at the experience. Like, why not show up at East Cobb, which is like hallowed ground for baseball, and be there? We probably have close to 1 million people coming in and out of that facility all the time. If you come down to Jupiter, our event, I mean, there's probably 30,000 people in that area. There should be a sponsor village there where, the banks, the insurance, hey, where's your car parked? Hey, we're Geico. Let's go out and check on it. Where are all these campaigns? But again, you need to come to the kids, and that's either social, it's in person, and the parents need to benefit from it. Like, let's give something back. Like even, when you're on site, the baseball game's 2 hours, maybe 3 hours you're playing, right? I mean, there's plenty of dead time over a 4 or 5 day period to do something. And listen, maybe taking your lead, we've talked about having maybe a convention or a summit at one of our big events where there's 30,000 people one day. What a great opportunity for brands, right? And being at the All-Star game last week and walking around, I think there's so much to do. It's untapped in terms of the way the old media agencies, the ad agencies, direct to, brands, we have the consumer. So like you say, we have, is Rawlings involved? Yes. Do we have back companies like Soldier Tank? Yes, we do, right? Delano. But what's next, right? Like, where's that Chase booth? Where's the Citibank booth? Where's the Geico doing the auto glass check on your car, your tire check, right? Where's the free M&Ms being handed out to these kids? Again, it's perfect to me. We're the perfect platform from a media point of view and on-site point of view. You want to attack a region? I got the Southeast for you. You want the Midwest? We have the Midwest for you, right? So, sometimes the national brands are hard. Maybe you have to take more of a regional approach. But again, I think you can get very regionally focused from a brand point of view on everything that we're doing. Pick it. You want Houston, Kansas City, Chicago? We have every area if you want. And that could be regional supermarkets, regional clothing stores, regional pizza places. So, but give the parents something when they leave the game. If you had a GPS, go to this restaurant and there's a $20 coupon, or go to this mini golf place because you can have one of your 8-year-old could play for free, or you just won the PG event. Great. Show that you won, show your winning score, and, your hamburger's on us today. So again, I think it's just kind of getting creative with the applications for a lot of these brands. Have to get more into 2026 on what we're doing.
You said a minute ago, I think it was at 100,000 when you guys took it over, participants, to 1.9 million. So, in my brain, that immediately says, okay, like you guys have expanded well beyond just the elite, sort of pathway to the pros player, to a much longer tail of baseball athletes in America. So I guess, one, how much bigger can you guys get on a sheer numbers count? And is part of that, we had one of your colleagues on a few months ago talking about, I think you guys did the tournament with the individual entry, right? Where it's a little bit of a lower bar that was for the elite player. But in my view, you got some kids who maybe would love to experience a PG event, but maybe they don't want to, they're not on a, really competitive travel team that'll wind up in one of your tournaments. And maybe that's a way to open the aperture to get some more of the, like, I don't want to say like pure recreational, but like rec plus athletes in who might not otherwise get to experience a PG event. Is that an opportunity for you guys?
I think it's a huge opportunity. And when I said we had 100,000 kids 8 years ago, we were really only doing elite high school level baseball. So the big push for us has been doing AA ball, A ball, AAA ball, introducing baseball to 8, 9, 10-year-old kids who maybe never swung a bat before. So we don't want you coming to a tournament thinking we're running a PG 9U elite event and your team is going to lose 18-0. That's a terrible experience for everybody. So we're running lower level baseball. We're introducing the game to people in all these different markets. So we've gone down market in age, but what we want to do, where we want to be better than our competitors, I'm running elite events for non-elite players or developing players, right? Because these kids will continue to develop. And we need to keep letting kids play at 13, 14, 15, because how many stories do you hear? Oh, he didn't even make the JV team when he went into high school, right? And then he all of a sudden grew 6 inches, added 10 miles on his fastball. Well, if that kid gave up the game, then he never would have had that opportunity. So we're trying to do a lot more, call it lower level events. I wouldn't call them rec ball events yet, but to me, we're opening up the game for everybody to play, and not just the boys. By the way, this year we're going to do 6,000 teams for fast pitch softball. So we'll probably have 75,000 to 100,000 girls playing as well. So for us, it's about giving the girls the same experience, putting them in the spotlight, getting their PG profiles up as well, and giving them a path to go play in college down the road, and maybe in the women's adult baseball league. Maybe there's other things that will pop up as well. But for us, we have to open up the game to more kids, and we really have with the participation that we've increased.
To me, it sounds like expanding that surface area for kids to continue to grow with, we always call it like professionalized rec. I know that's not the perfect term for this, but it's like, hey, making the experience every bit as good so the kid can go enjoy themselves, stay involved in the game. And whether or not they, grow 6 inches and become a prospect doesn't matter. It's like, hey, there's more kids playing longer. Sounds like it's the goal there.
Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely the goal. To me, we look at it like this. We say it internally, we're growing the game. Like, we love the Believe in Baseball campaign, which is our charity that we get a lot of underprivileged kids. We sponsor them to get to play baseball, individual events. But for us, it's all about growing the game. The more people we get in, the more people that can love this game, like we all love this game because it is a beautiful game, right? Maybe that's a soccer reference over there with the World Cup, but it's baseball is what I grew up with, and it's always personally in my heart growing up loving it.
Do you see any rules like USA Baseball? I'm sure you just saw they went down in high school from drop 3 to drop 4, drop 5, and drop 6. Do you see that making its way to maybe your guys' organization, or is that a way to you think will help people continue to grow, continue to play longer? Any thoughts on that?
Obviously, that drop 6 got a lot of press at the high school level. What we're doing as a company, and we really are looking after the health and safety of these kids. And I talked about how I think technology plays into it. But we think the bat certification process is very antiquated and outdated. It might be 30 years old at this point. So we're taking a very hard look with experts at the bat certification process about what's right and what's wrong about it. And we're going to have more announcements on the bat certification process and what's approved and not approved for Perfect Game, probably within the next 6 to 12 months on what's going on there.
How do you sort of think about that line between, hey, developing, like improving bat quality so kids can, hit further, get more out of their bats, right? I mean, there's a commercial opportunity there, and then obviously safety on the other side. I think that's what came to the fore in this announcement. I've seen lots of data that says, hey, the lighter bat doesn't produce, a lot of physics that I wasn't really aware of, but doesn't produce the same amount of pop, so it almost doesn't matter. How do you think about balancing those two things? Obviously, safety is important, but at the same time, kids want to bat with pop.
No, there's no doubt kids want to bat with pop. And I think for us, I think we are going to look at the safety standards and the bat qualifications of what makes a bat safe and not. I think 3 years ago, we actually banned the drop 5 from 12U play for safety reasons, because we thought too many kids were getting hit with line drives throwing from 50 feet mounds. And we took that effort. We got a lot of heat from a lot of people on it. But there's also a lot of people out there, I think there's a lot of subjectivity in the bat game right now. And I think what we're looking to do is we want to come up with our own standards, have it tested and approved. And once we have those standards kind of finalized, we're going to share that with the other bat companies out there. And we will take a hard look at our rules with our rules committee, which include a lot of former Major League Baseball players and coaches. And we'll also talk about some of the travel ball orgs that use it as well. But we will make a collaborative decision on that after reviewing all the data that we're ingesting it now. So once we have that all, we do plan on sharing that with many of the bat companies and many of the big travel ball and coaches out there, travel ball organizations, that is.
Maybe switching gears a little bit, there's this broader conversation going on around youth sports. Washington's involved. My read on it, a lot of times there's a lot of people that seem almost like they hate anything that's commercial about or professional about youth sports, and they want everything to be the way it used to be, the old rec league. And I think a lot of that is just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. But specifically, a lot of people almost pretend like you guys specialize in the elite athlete for sure. Some of the numbers you rattled off about, the draft picks this year in MLB. A lot of the people who talk about this stuff act as if no child ever develops to become a D1 athlete or a pro athlete, right? And yet the reality is many kids have a chance. It's a small subset of kids, but there are people who develop, become elite athletes through Perfect Game, go on to play in Major League Baseball. You've named a bunch of them. So how do you view that broader conversation? And what do you kind of say to the detractor of the professionalization of youth sports that almost pretends like pro athletes don't exist? It's weird to me sometimes.
Well, I think a lot of that comes from, a lot of it obviously also people want to hit up the state of play policies and all that stuff. And again, we've talked about this before. It's, we have to look at it like this: is we are letting kids play at an elite level if they want to play at an elite level, but we're also going to let them play at a AA, AAA, A ball, Rec Plus level, right? So we're continuing to create a platform that allows all these organizations, a lot of these top organizations, whether it's the Canes, Five Star, Wow Factor, Ghost, PRD, like we're giving them a platform to play the tournaments, but all these other guys are part of the ecosystem as well, right? So we're trying to create these events that create realistically an economic impact, right? People want to critique it, but if you really look at this, travel coordination exists because thousands of families are traveling to the same community at the same time, right? Ultimately, and I'm focused maybe on the hotels. The organized lodging program helps secure sufficient inventory, competitive rates, quality experience for the families while supporting the communities that invest in the youth sports. If Perfect Games bringing the platform to these communities, we're hoping the communities, you want to build an 8-field turf complex, it might cost $30 million. So if the municipality is going to do that, like our goal is we need the families to book hotels. We need those communities to have economic impact. But we're also creating this platform. If you want to play rec ball forever, I mean, that's Little League, right? Like you can play rec ball forever. But at some point, if you want to improve your game, no difference than if you're going to school, people send their kids to private school. People get tutors, right? People get social, emotional coaches nowadays, life coaches, right? So Perfect Game's part of that ecosystem, along with a lot of these top travel ball organizations, right? Along with the communities that are building the fields, along with the hotels and businesses that are there. So again, I look at it like this: is our goal is to create that platform for the kids, is to somewhat evaluate them, but then they have to go back and work with their coaches, their trainers, their organizations, right? And everybody wants to take, their shots at Perfect Game, which I respect. We think we're on that, the top of the mountain a little bit, so to speak, right? Not trying to be bragging about it, but we like to put out an elite tournament out there for the kids to play. But again, we're putting out an elite tournament for the 8-9-year-old kid too, right? That hopefully does develop. I think I'm more proud sometimes. We talk about the draft, but there's 40,000 kids, I believe, playing college baseball, and 90% of them played in Perfect Game at some point. And not everyone is going to be Bobby Witt Jr. or Bryce Harper, but you might throw that last pitch or take that last at bat as a senior in college. And I like to say that we're some small part of helping that person get there. And if we didn't have this platform and everything, I'm not, rec ball has its place in the marketplace, local. And I'm not saying, listen, travel ball, it is expensive. It's an expensive game, right? So that's why for us, when we do room blocks, we don't want you negotiating your hotel room for $150. If I can get 100 rooms and every parent can pay $100, we've saved everybody money. The organization, the parent, the community loves us because it's 100 rooms booked. They get the hotel tax. Hopefully they reinvest that into the community fields where maybe kids can get an intro into baseball. So again, it's kind of crazy. Everything connects, right? It's I don't know if that answers your question, Kyle, but we have to be out there as a platform delivering a great product, in my opinion, because I think there's demand for the great product, right? But there's also demand for a great product for your 8-year-old kid being introduced to baseball the right way. If he goes to a bad field, has a bad umpire walks off the field, curses out a parent, it's a turnoff. So we want to make sure that little kid stepping on the field for the first time, like my 9-year-old son, has a great experience out there, right? And doesn't get turned off from the game.
Yeah. No, I think it was a great answer. And I think, there's kind of two different forks. On the one side, kind of the elite pathway, I thought you were uniquely positioned to kind of push back on that narrative, because the same people, the detractors of, these elite pathways existing, they'll also then the next day go to a Yankees or Phillies game or a Royals game and watch Bobby Witt and Bryce Harper and forget the fact that like those guys needed to come through a perfect game or something like a perfect game in their sport to get to that level. And, those people do exist, whatever small percentage of society they turn out to be. On the state of play piece, the other thing we put on an event, you mentioned it earlier, we're going to do it next year. Our first one, we learned very quickly about the need for hotel blocks. And even in a big city like Philly, we had to make sure we had enough rooms in 3 different hotels that we had to piece together. So maybe talk about the downsides of, state of play gets a bad rap. I think there are some people and operators in the space who maybe take advantage of it, aren't super transparent of it about it. The Dallas Stars had a couple of employees that were self-dealing, which was a real extreme. But maybe talk about the downsides if it doesn't exist. And like you said, you bring 400 people, 1,000 people to a tournament, and now it's a free for all. You almost can't. I imagine you can't even like execute that tournament if you don't know there's at least enough inventory for those people coming to town.
Oh, without a doubt, capturing that inventory is so important for us, right? So I think for us on State of Play, I think obviously there's lawsuits out there, and I'm not, privy to the facts of all those lawsuits, but the accusations are more about hidden fees, lack of transparency, guaranteeing rates that didn't exist. That's not what PG is about, right? For us, it's about disclosure and fair value, right? Like you have to ask yourself the question, is the requirement disclosed to families and organizations? And we say, yes, it is. Is it applied the same way to everyone? Yes, it is. Is there an opt-out for families and organizations, right? Yes, there is. Are there any hidden fees? No, there shouldn't be, right? So perfect game to me is the model for how you should do it, right? It's about transparency to me, right? Affordability and customer experience. So everything that we have is transparent. You're never going to show up to a hotel. Oh, by the way, there's a tack on of $30 on this because it's a PG event. No, we're trying to, we use a company like Event Connect. We're being as transparent as possible up front. It's like I said, you're booking a wedding for 200 guests. If everyone individually books, you're going to pay a higher rate. If I can get 200 blocks of room for those people at $100 rather than individually negotiating at 125, we've done everybody a favor. The families benefit, the community benefits. And what we want is almost like state of play. The focus on hotel costs sometimes gets overblown, but the economic ecosystem, again, that makes youth sports like possible is the municipalities building the fields, the tourism authorities investing in the communities, right? The local restaurants, the hotels, the small businesses. We have to get umpires. We have to get grounds crew. We have to get local employees. I have to pay insurance. I have to pay trainers, right? So unless there's an economic viability for a municipality or a town, why do they want to host the game, right? Like we're bringing it back. Like in Fort Myers and Lee County, when the Red Sox and Twins leave for spring training, I've been told our economic impact in that community is $70 million a year, right? That keeps people working. It keeps hotels and businesses. It lets us get great rates if you want to go play there because we can block rooms off for them. So to me, we have to look at the bigger picture of state of play. But again, if you're booking a wedding, do you want every guest booking their own room or do you want to help them and get a discounted room block, right? You guys dealt with that at your convention and everything else. And I think sometimes that gets lost. But again, for me personally, we have a published uniform applied policy on state of play. There's a clear expectation. If you're local within a radius, you don't pay. We're transparent. We're fairly priced. And the opt-out is there in plain sight for everything. Everything is disclosed up front. We don't want any surprises. We want to apply that consistently. And to me, that should be the standard for the entire industry, is that transparency, affordability.
Is there a middle ground that you could see maybe down the line? We've talked to people in the industry and stuff, and some say that they're travel tournament operators. Some say that maybe there's been a shift in different parents or kids in terms of travel or going on trips for sports and everything. We talked about IPE. We talked about obviously state of play right now. We talked about tournaments and experiences and all that stuff. Is there a middle ground you think where you can still get that elite exposure, maybe as like technology advances and stuff, maybe in more regional showcases or anything? Is there any middle ground you think going forward as we kind of advance sports technology and just the general industry advances and stuff? So maybe we can limit these travels other than these premium experiences where you have to go down to Woodbat or Jupiter.
Well, that's actually been a big initiative for us. So I'm really glad you asked that question because, if you look at our WWBAs, which were basically, we're playing at the 14, 15, 16, 17 level in Georgia and Florida, everybody's traveling down. Well, This year we did one in the Chicago area. This one we're doing one in the Texas area. This one we're doing one in the Northeast. So the mindset that Perfect Game had is we're coming to you. So I look at it more as rather than just a national model that can exponentially grow, we're trying to come up with a super regional and local model to where maybe the parents and the kids don't have to travel much. So I want to be in Houston, Dallas, Austin, and everyone. So maybe you don't have to go saying if you're playing in Houston that you have to come down from Dallas. I want to be all over because it is, listen, if people don't have to get on a plane, it saves them a ton of money, right? If they can drive back to their house at the end of the night, it saves them a ton of money. So we've opened up in California, we've opened up in Nevada, we've opened up in Arizona. 2 years ago, I had nothing in the Midwest. Now I'm in Springfield, Illinois, New Lenox, Illinois. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. So for us, it's coming to you. Like we're listening to people and we're trying to come what I like to call the super regional model. We're coming to you, playing our event. It's an elite tournament. Sure. Are the elite teams going to go down to the Jupiter event in October? Yes, we're always going to have that. But we need more super regional events where you can drive to them, right? Because it'll save the parents a lot of money. So that I think is the middle ground. And that's a big push for us on our growth. And not just at the high school level, but we're coming to you at that 9, 10, 11, 12U level. Like we're in Springfield, Illinois for the first time. We're running youth events there every single weekend right now, right? We're running events in Cincinnati, Cleveland, Michigan, all over the place right now, right? So, the only way I can play in a PG event, I got to fly down to Atlanta, bring the family. No. You live in Chicago? You can drive to it now. You live in Dallas? You can drive to it now. You live in Las Vegas? You can drive to it now, right? So that's been a big push for us. And it's really how we've gone from 6 states, 100,000 participants, to I think it's 42 states, 1.9 million participants right now, is we're coming to you and we use companies like Event Connect. We talk to the municipalities. They want us there. They want to help us with hotel rates for the parents when we do run big events. And I think it's that type of collaboration that we're trying to keep costs down for everyone.
Kind of last topic for me, almost on the other side of the coin. You guys had, think, an event in the Pacific Rim, which we covered, right? So you guys are thinking internationally as well. Now, my guess is that was mostly for athletes in that region. So, one, talk about how that's going and where that could go. And then maybe secondarily, sports tourism is a massive opportunity from both the pro to the youth level. Do you see a world where some of those elite teams or even parents and families for the experience want to go play overseas in an event as, you know, part of a experiential trip, not just for the baseball, that you guys can support that? So maybe talk a little about international and how it ties to maybe the broader tourism opportunity.
Yeah, well, listen, we certainly think the PG brand plays overseas, whether that's in the Dominican Republic, whether that's in Australia, whether it's Japan, Korea. We are running events right now in Asia. I think we did our first Australian event in December of 2024, and it was more like a tourism thing where you can go to Australia and play in this event, and it was great. The families loved it. It's almost like a sportcation for people, right? Going to Australia. Maybe we do one in Amsterdam. We do one in London. I mean, you know, we're talking about doing one in Italy with Francisco Cervelli, who was the coach of the Italian team. Fantastic. We're in process on that.
That's the one we want to come cover, by the way.
Yes.
We're going to come to that one.
I might bring the family to that one too.
Yeah.
That's a great one. But it's opening up the game of baseball to the entire world. So we think there's more of that. There's a lot of conversations going on an international basis. We want to expose the game for younger kids at that level. And it doesn't have to be elite, right? There's always elite tournaments, but doing something where you introduce people, part of it going to Australia was there, but these kids visited the Sydney Opera House. They visited the Sydney Harbor Bridge, right? They went around the harbor. Like it's a fantastic cultural experience for these kids, whether they're going to Japan, Australia, London. You know, we're doing things in the Dominican Republic. We've done things in Curacao, and we've done things in Italy. And the plan is to do much more of that. And then we want to bring teams from Japan to the U.S. We bring teams from China to the U.S. That's all happening right now too. So again, to bring them in here And, we probably need a little more thought because you don't want to travel from Japan here, play for a weekend and fly home. So how can we keep you here maybe for 3 weeks when you're off from school? Maybe it's in Florida. Maybe they go to Disney. Maybe they go to, the Marlins game or the Braves game if they're coming to Georgia. So again, that cultural experience crossing borders, I mean, baseball should be the ultimate unifier of people. Ultimately, when you're on the field, you're playing a fun game. It doesn't matter if you're Japanese, Korean, American, Cuban, whatever it is. It's the great equalizer being on that field.
Last one from me. Back to the verified data piece that we talked about earlier in the episode. Everyone we really talked to in baseball, at least, like perfect game is kind of where a lot of these scouts go to. College pros go to find, elite talent, verified data, all that stuff. We talk about the SAT and the FICO score. How do you become those in terms of verified data? In baseball, you guys are the cream of the crop, but we see in other sports like football, basketball, soccer, definitely that like this verified data is kind of a crapshoot. I was talking to somebody the other day. He said one team, if they spot a 6'2", 360 offensive lineman and he's at a camp and no one knows about him, they'll mark him as 6 foot 320. They'll take that off, and that's kind of like a problem that is just through the industry. What advice would you give, maybe these other companies out there? I feel like I talk to one every couple of weeks about they're doing verified data, or we hear something in the news about they're doing a verified data platform. What advice or anything would you give or insight would you give to how PG has built up their verified data to kind of be the gold standard in baseball, at least?
Yeah. And listen, I think the gold standard goes back to, this company was created 30 years ago by Jerry Ford, who was the founder, who was scouting kids in Iowa who didn't play high school ball until the summer, right? So there were no scouts there to see the game. So I like to use the word credibility, right? So perfect game, if we're telling you a kid is throwing 95 miles per hour, the kid is throwing 95 miles per hour, right? He's not throwing, you might go to another tournament, all of a sudden that kid's throwing 98 miles per hour. So he didn't throw that in our tournament, right? So for us, I use that key word. It's credibility, it's validation of data, and it's our reputation. I mean, the one thing that, people don't talk enough about sometimes in this business is the human element of it. Our employees at Perfect Game love baseball. They grew up in baseball, they've coached baseball, they played baseball, they've run organizations, they work on the field, they're in the heat in 95 degrees, they're moving the water off behind home plate. We have guys like in our scouting department, Jared Goodwin, Greg Sabers. We have ops guys like Bob Barth, Taylor McCullough, Todd Coffey, former pitcher for the Reds and other things. These guys are living and breathing it, and they care about the kids. The last thing they would ever want to do is tell you a kid's throwing 95 when he's throwing 91. The last thing, if he's throwing 95, it's totally objective. It's credibility. You can take it to the bank with our stats and our data. And I think that's why Major League Baseball, the NCAA, the college teams come to Perfect Game, because that word credibility and reputation is synonymous with Perfect Game.
Nice. Perfect spot to end it, because I think we marry credibility and reputation. The word that comes to my mind is brand, which I know we talked our first interview so much about, and it seems like a good full circle moment. You got anything else, Kyle? I know we got a hop.
No. Yeah, I mean, you touched on it perfectly. People really do love it over there at Perfect Game when they worked. I met a guy named Snake. He came and he did the field. Then he went over to another field down the street. Then he came back the game before and did that field. And the guy was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I definitely I watched that kind of play out. So I agree. But thank you so much, Rob. We really appreciate you coming on. It's always fun to talk to you. And good luck down the line. I know we'll have a new press release in our inbox probably the next week and a half. So we look forward to it.
I think we'll see you in Philly in a few weeks.
We'll see you in Philly in a few weeks. Looking forward to it.